ingredients that we have around our house and combines them in our mixers, in our bowls, in our kitchens, and creates beautiful masterpieces. And we are so excited to have Meriel. She has an Instagram page called Desserts, depending on how many M's you want to put in there. But she is someone who I've always looked up to with her kitchen inspirations. She has made some beautiful cakes. She teaches our French macaron classes. But she has this ability to just take simple things and make beautiful creations with it. And today is not a surprise that she's going to be making. You guys walked in and you're just like, what is that smell? What are we going to eat? It's going to be so much fun. And so it's been so fun to be able to watch her as she's been creating these, getting them ready for you guys. And I hope that you enjoy this whole process. Because I think so many times in the kitchen we talk ourselves out of doing things, whether it's like, oh, I have to strain it, or I have to temper it with my eggs, I'm out. Yeah. But sometimes those things make such a difference in what we do, and it's so fun to be able to see that we're not taking something crazy, we're not having expensive products. No, it's not as hard. And so she's going to walk you guys through that process today and hopefully give you guys the confidence to be able to create this at home. And you're going to blow everyone's minds when you're like, guess what I made today? And so thank you, Meriel. Again, it's 3 M's. Mm-hmm. Her Instagram page is Dessert. And it's so much fun to just see what she creates in there. So I highly recommend you follow her, join her along with her journey, and then come take a hands-on class with her as well. She's always here at least once a month doing macarons, and it's always so fun to see those light bulb moments go off for you guys. Like, now I know why I'm not making that work. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us. This is Meriel. Have fun, and be ready for her to just blow your mind, because she will give you all the details of it. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much. What an introduction.
No pressure.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, quick question. Who has actually made cream puffs before? Okay, so like a lot of you, not all of you. Awesome. Have you guys ever tried Craquelin before? No? Okay. Craquelin is like the easiest part of the recipe, hands down. It's like legit just like a sugar cookie dough, minus, I don't even know. Like it literally is just a sugar cookie dough. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to get started so that we can get these guys in the oven. It takes anywhere between, depending on how hot your oven runs, it takes anywhere between like 35 minutes to almost 40 to cook these. So these ones, it runs a little hot, so it only took us like almost 30 minutes, which is great. But aren't these so cute the way they turn out with the Craquelin on top, right? And they add like a really yummy, sugary, crunchy texture to it, which is really fun. Because cream puffs are amazing, and they're really just like a carrier for whatever filling you put inside, right? There's not a whole lot to it. It puffs up. But I mean, come on, what's cuter, right? Also, you don't have to do chocolate. You can do just a regular vanilla Craquelin. So then it's more just like brown sugar, and it's just delicious. So you can color those. So if you wanted to do like red cream puffs, you could color the Craquelin to be red. A lot of people do that. It's really cute for like Valentine's Day. These are the kind of dessert that you are going to want to make the day of. Well, you can spread it out for your sake, but you can just make it for the day of, and you serve it right away. Have any of you ever, because like a variation of a cream puff is an eclair, right? Or a Paris breast. Has anyone ever had a Paris breast before? That is so good. It's my favorite. It's legitimately just piped choux pastry, which is what we make here, which is what this is made out of, piped into a circle like a big donut, and then you cut it in half and you add like a hazelnut praline inside mixture. There's all sorts of variations, but the idea is that it's like a hazelnut praline. It's so good. So yeah, you can do eclairs, you can do Paris breast, you can even do crullers. If you pipe them into little circles and then fry them, you can do crullers with it. But yeah, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to eat it just right away, within like a half hour of piping your filling in, because that is the texture, the mouthfeel that you want. If you buy them from a place like Costco or wherever and they're just in the freezer and you pull them out, they're going to be kind of, soft and not ideal texture for those of us that know how good they are when they're crisp, right? So you can technically freeze these. When I have frozen them and I pull them out, they don't really ever crisp up the same way that they did out of the oven. You can always put them back in the oven and that helps a little bit. But then they're kind of, I mean, your people that you're serving it to probably won't know the difference, but then it's a lot more soft, like the texture of like a store-bought cream puff. So, with that in mind, let's just get started on doing the pat choux. Okay, so what we are doing, we have our ingredients right here, and I think a lot of the problem areas that people have is that their recipe isn't specific enough. And I have to say, this is not technically my recipe. I've adapted some of it to make it chocolate, but for the most part, I pulled it from Cloudy Kitchen, which is she's the most amazing, like recipe developer, Instagrammer, all those things. So if you ever want variations to this or other amazing ideas, check her out because she's so awesome. She does not do a cookbook. She just gives it all for free online. It's so nice. Okay, so we're gonna do the pat choux, which is the choux pastry. And let's see, I am actually halving all of my recipes. That is another amazing thing about this. It's all scalable. And you want to use a scale. We preach that at the top of our lungs. Yes.
Is our recipe we have here the half?
That's the full. Okay. That's the full recipe. Okay. But I kid you not, it is so easy to half all of this, and it works great. You know how some recipes they don't half very well? Mm-hmm. This halves really well. Halves well, it doubles well, it triples well. So feel free to do what you need to do. Like let's say you don't want to do the full diplomat cream, you just want to do like half of it and then save your choux pastry for a different filling. You can do that. Half the pastry cream recipe, half the diplomat cream, and you're good to go. It's totally up to you how you guys want to fill it. You can do a bunch of different fillings, which is so fun and so delicious. You just get really creative. If you ever follow people on Instagram or on Pinterest or anything like that, you pull whatever fun ideas you can from that and say, okay, I want to fill mine half with a hazelnut praline and sort of do a Paris Brest situation, and then half with whipped cream. Or I want to flavor my whipped cream with chocolate or peanut butter or Nutella. Whatever you want to do, you play around with it because they really are just like little carriers for deliciousness. So, to start, I'm gonna skip doing the Craquelin because I could walk you through it. It's unbelievably easy. I do it in a KitchenAid, but technically, if you're strong, you can do it in a regular bowl. You are literally just going to put all of the ingredients in the bowl with a paddle, the paddle attachment, and you're just going to beat it till it comes together, till it's like a paste, and then you're going to roll it out in between parchment paper, and we'll show you when we bring out the one we've already done, at a thin, like 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch level. I really like using the sugar cookie, like the dough, what are they called? Rolling pins that have the measurements on the side. Those are awesome, because then it's like no question, no brainer, done, right? Or you can just eyeball it. It's pretty thin, needless to say. Okay, so yeah, you want to keep that in the freezer like the whole time. And you can make that way ahead of time, does not matter, keep it in the freezer. Keep it between plastic wrap if you want for a month. It's just a very thin and simple dough. It doesn't have to be chocolate, but I would find like a different recipe instead of just omitting the chocolate so that the ratios stay the same, right? Okay, so we will show you that when we get to actually baking off our cream puffs. But yeah, like that is a perfect example of a rolling pin with measurements on it. So this is like 1/8 of an inch, says on the side, okay? That's what, you roll it out. So that way you don't have to stress about, is this side thinner, is this side thicker, is it even, did I do it right? I don't know what 1/8 of an inch looks like. So, all right, we are gonna start with our choux pastry. And to start, we make sure our ovens are at 400. You are going to do one tray at a time, and you don't want to open your oven ever, so we're going to start at 400 and then halfway through we lower it to 350, but just get it preheated to 400 while you're making this. All right, so we are going to put all of our wet ingredients in here and start heating it up. And now I have already pre-measured almost all the stuff just to save us time. And I'm going to get this going to like, you know, low medium. We don't want to scald the milk and we don't want to get it boiling too fast. So this is actually milk and water. And like I said, I've halved this recipe, so that's why it seems a little less. So milk and water, and we're gonna add our sugar and salt. Just add straight to it. And our butter, honestly, do I have a knife? Yes, I'm gonna cut this into little pieces so it's easier to melt. Doesn't need to be room temperature, but it does need to be at a place where you're not going to be sitting there for hours waiting for it to melt and combine. And I'm going to get my vanilla bean paste and put that in. So, like the recipe says, we've got milk, water, butter, salt, vanilla bean paste, and sugar. And we're just going to let that come to like a little tiny boil, like not a huge boil. As soon as it starts boiling, that's when we're gonna add the flour. All right. So, I'm just gonna kind of let that, stir that in, combine it. It's already starting to melt. And I already have the flour all weighed out. I like to do all of my baking mise en place, where is what you have all your ingredients laid out already. It's so much less stressful because sometimes you have to do these things like on a timer or, you know, like watch it like a hawk, that kind of thing. And you don't want to be stressing like, have I already weighed it out? Do I have it? Do I not have it? So it's nice to just already have it out. And you definitely don't need to have like a million different containers, but like you could weigh everything in here just on a scale and then put that on the stove to heat it up. And then have that ready after the fact. So we're getting there. You have to use vanilla bean paste. All of these things, especially choux pastry, the water content is such a big deal. It's very important to make sure that you don't have too much water or too little. You have to, that's why following the recipe is so important and using the scale is so important. So we don't want to like add a liquid to it that is going to mess it up. So that's why I always like to follow the recipe, because if, you know, a lot of times people develop these recipes, they take so long to make sure that it's correct and that it works. And then people comment like, it didn't work for me. And it's like, well, did you follow it? Did you like say, oh, I don't really need that. Or I don't need to go that long. It's fine. So as long as you follow it the right way, like you don't have to stress about doing it, you know, and messing it up, because it's almost always gonna work out perfectly. Okay, so now I am not quite boiling, but in a little bit we're gonna dump that in and set a timer for 2 minutes. I love these timers. I have 2 of them in the kitchen. Okay, we're getting like simmered edges, but not quite boiling. Almost. All right, so now I'm starting to get little bubbles everywhere. I'm going to just kind of transfer it for a second, and I'm just going to dump this flour in. Okay, and we are going to beat it up. I can show you under here. You see? Look, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so we're beating it up. Okay, we're getting it really beat well. It takes, you know, some people like to sift their flour in, and that is great too. Not a big deal. It's totally up to you.
It doesn't make a difference.
I mean, the only thing that it can really do is if there's like a huge clump that you haven't. So now I'm going to put this back on and time it for 2 minutes. If you're not confident that you can't like beat it really well while it's on here to like incorporate all the ingredients, but you really are beating it for like 2 solid minutes. So I wouldn't worry about it. I haven't had any problem. The lumps can cause your dough to like erupt in the oven, but it's fine. No one's like leaving it like this. You have to beat it for 2 minutes to get all the water content out that you need. So we're really just
So has the heat turned off, don't you?
It's low. It's low medium. I don't want to scald it. So it's just like a low medium. and I'm literally just moving it around, feeding it, trying to get the excess water content out. If you don't do this, your choux buns will collapse in the oven because there will be too much water content and they'll collapse. So that's why we beat and beat and just let that heat do the work, right? Okay, so as soon as that timer goes, I have 1 minute left, you guys. Right? Okay. Keep going. I'm just grateful it's only half the recipe and not a full one, because that's like, get it done. All right. You guys ever watch Great British Baking Show? Watching them do this, I'm like, oh my god.
And it's like super hot in the tent, and you're like, I'm so excited.
Right? Seriously. Okay. We're almost done. 18 seconds. And it doesn't change the consistency, like, it doesn't change the consistency. It's still that, like, almost looks like a ball of Play-Doh. It's still that ball. You're still just pushing it around, heating it up. All right. So now, be quiet. Okay. Now I'm just going to dump it in my bowl. Came out real easy. And turn that off. And I am going to beat it on like a tube, okay? Now something, and I'm gonna do that for 1 minute to cool it down. Sometimes, like this recipe says, beat on medium speed for 1 minute to cool down. Now medium speed on a KitchenAid is like in between a 4 and 6. That's really fast. KitchenAids, so when people develop recipes, and this is something you just have to like accept and understand when you bake, is that they use different equipment all the time, okay? So you have to like take everything with a grain of salt. I'm not gonna put it up to between a 4 and a 5 because I don't wanna overbeat it. I don't wanna make it tough. This is fast enough to do the trick. Did you guys know that like raise and lower stand KitchenAids and tilt head KitchenAids have different motors that have different speeds? Yeah, it's crazy. Like these ones are so much faster than the raise and lower ones. When I do max and I have to like beat my meringue, if I'm using a raise and lower, it's 2 minutes at each interval. If I'm using a tilt head like this, it's 30 seconds. So way different speeds, way different engines if you're using something else. You just want it to be fast enough that it's like aerating it. It's like cooling it down. It's not going to be super hot, but it cooks your eggs when you pour your eggs in. Okay, so now I'm going to slowly stream in 240 grams of egg, okay? Basically what I do is I crack a bunch of eggs, mix them up like you would scrambled eggs, and then I pour out until I have the measured amount. And I save on the side whatever extra I have. Because this is kind of like bread dough, where moisture in the air comes into play, humidity, things like that.
This is the full egg, not just egg yolk.
This is the full egg. Yes, the full egg. Okay, so we have, I halved the recipe. So I'm going to slowly add this in. And if it doesn't give me the right consistency, this is what we call like the extra just in case egg, okay? We will add that if we need to. The other day I made some and I didn't need to add any extra egg. But then a couple weeks ago I made some and I definitely had to add some extra egg. So, I will show you because we're looking for a consistency, a V formation in our consistency. And we want to make sure that we get that. And sometimes it'll be too thick. So we want to make sure that we have that. So we're just going to go a little bit at a time until it gets fully incorporated. All right, I'm going to finish that. Okay. Now, it says 4 to 5 minutes, like, honestly you can do like 2 to 3 minutes until it's fully incorporated. You just want it to become like a paste. And I am going to increase the speed. So, let's put on like 3 minutes. Okay. While that's mixing, you can see it right here. It's still like kind of chunky. It will eventually come together and form a paste. And so it's already starting to form that paste that we're looking for. Hopefully you guys can see it decently. When it's ready, I'll pull it out and show you. But yeah, we're just trying to like incorporate it fully. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of it too. So you can see like it's kind of like a paste now. And I'm just going to make sure the sides are all good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going just a little bit. Sticky. Okay. All right, so to pipe it, I have a bag and a round tip. Okay, so to do cream puffs, we're going to just use a round tip. Now for eclairs, you can do a round tip and pipe a straight line, or you can do a star tip. For eclairs, it's fun to do a star tip if you're not going to do craquelin on top, just because this helps it so it doesn't burst in like wonky places. When it has these lines, it's almost like scoring it so that it stays nicely where it needs to be. When you're doing craquelin, you don't even need to worry about it popping in wonky places because it just kind of holds a little cap. A little cap holds it down. All right. So I'm just going to check it. And we might have to add a little bit more egg. Let's look. So I'm just going to kind of scrape the sides with my paddle like this. And then I'm looking for when it comes down and I pull out for a V. Now that's a good looking V, but it's a little broken in places. See how it's kind of like breaking a little, just want like a little bit less breaking. So I'm gonna add just a teeny, I'm not even gonna add all of this, just a little bit. It's definitely like gauging it. Okay. Which is nice because that means you can't do too much to ruin it, right? Is that one? It's hard to do this backwards. Okay. All right. So now I'm just incorporating that a little bit of egg, just to see if we can get a little bit more runny. And we'll see that V form a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to check that out. We don't want it too runny. We did all that work trying to get the moisture out, right? Eating it, but all right. That is better. See how it forms that V when it pulls off? See how it comes out and forms that V? Obviously this is a half a recipe, so it's going to be a little bit more smaller amount to work with, but I think that's good to go. It's nice and glossy and smooth, and we're getting really good V's. So, I don't know if you can all see that a little bit. Put it in here. So it's just like a really glossy batter, and we're gonna, when you put it in and you pull it out, you get a good V. Yeah, you don't want to add too much, but we've got a good V, so yeah. All right, so now, still a little warm, but that's okay. I can't be bothered to scrape it. We have so much of this stuff, you guys. We've made so much. It's hilarious. Okay, where's my bag? All right, so I'm gonna put it in here. I always like to fold my tip under so it doesn't explode out the bottom. Not that this really would. It's really thick, but just in case. All right, so I'm gonna scrape it into my bag. I know. I know, it's fine. Come on. Can't be perfect, right?
What kind of piping bags do you like to use?
Not these. No, I like using just these like plastic disposable. I know that's like not good for the environment. Too bad. Rag. Hands are all sticky. And can I get the Choux or the Craquelin?
Yep.
This one. Okay, so I'm just gonna squeeze it down into the bottom of my thing. My hands are a mess. And I'm just going to twist and put it. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now this is kind of a fun part because now I get to show you how to pipe. And piping's really easy and you don't need a template. Like I wanted to bring these and show them to you because these are called perforated mats, okay? And these are great for baking any sort of choux pastry or croissants, anything that needs aeration all throughout. It really helps, but honestly,
Is it like a silk pad?
it's like a silk hat, but it has holes in it, so it just makes things extra crispy. They're great for cinnamon rolls. Or not
Do they
cinnamon rolls.
have them here?
I'm sorry, not cinnamon rolls. No, they don't. They could get them if they wanted to, but I just get them off Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah, you just specifically search for perforated silicone mats. Just one, you know when like tools just make everything work well? There's just one more tool that helps make things perfect.
So where do you get those?
I Amazon these. They're just a
Okay,
random
just search
perforated silicone baking mat.
Okay.
Yep. These are Valesco brand. I don't know. But they're great. And they usually come with like a template already put on them, which is nice. One less thing to do. But the cool part about this is that you don't really even need to like, I don't know why people take the time to use like a pencil and like trace individually. That would drive me absolutely insane. All you need to do is take some, like with chocolate, I'm using cocoa powder. If I was doing vanilla, I would just use powdered sugar. And I dip my template, and I just make a little
Can you
circle.
put that on camera?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Do you guys mind clearing that out for me? So,
What is your template?
again, with choux buns, you go a little smaller with your size because they do puff up. Like this is the one we're using right now. It's actually like a biscuit cutter or a donut cutter. I think it's like around an inch, maybe like an inch and a quarter. And that's what we use for these. And they puffed up that much. So go a little smaller if you don't want like a tennis ball size choux bun. So I am dipping it in, doing them about 2 inches apart. They do puff up a lot. And then I just go around. I'm gonna do like a dozen on a tray, like that. And really it's just to help eyeball. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I find that like it's nice for me to do consistent circles. That way they're not like all different sizes, right? You like consistency. So then I'm gonna use this again to cut out my craquelin. Now, just so you know, just so you can see what we did with the craquelin, I mean, literally threw all the ingredients into a bowl, mixed them together. I think by hand is a little hard just because it is butter that is like the base of the pastry, of the cookie. So I like to do it in a mixer with a paddle, but you're rolling it out pretty dang thin. See that? Okay. So you don't want it to be huge because then it will weigh the choux bun down, but you want it to be thick enough that it does keep that shape. And there's always going to be some cracking, and that's totally fine. But you know, you want some form of like a little thing, and then we just poke it out, and it's our little disc.
And where did you get your template?
So this template is just me decorating it. Which template are you referring to?
No, I'm just talking. That piece you're using.
Oh, this thing. It's like a cookie cutter or a
Okay.
dough cutter or whatever. Whatever size you can come up with. Like we just found this in the
We have them
store.
here.
And it's like a donut cutter, like a donut hole cutter. So we are going to pipe on here with my dough. Okay. So now I'm gonna do just little dollops in the corners. Okay. So that it holds the parchment paper down, right? You wouldn't have to do this if you were using the silicone mats because those are heavy enough that they weigh themselves down. But this, they'll fly up if you don't. So can we see this? Okay. I'm just squeezing into like where the circle is until I reach the outside of the circle, and then I'm like going off. And it's totally fine if you get that little dollop on top, because what we're gonna do is we're going to use like a damp finger and push it down. You want to push it down because any sort of like weirdness in the shape will cause more cracking, more eruption in the oven. So we're just going to do that on all of them. And the reason why we like to use that same template is because now we have piped the circles the same shape that we're supposed to, that now we can cut out our craquelin with the same size. So you just gonna put that down a little bit. It's not too bad.
Your cheese on it.
Oh, thank you. You got water for me? Thank you. So now I'm just going to set that little hat on top, just like that. Okay? You see that? Setting a little hat down. I know, it's like so simple. You want to use the craquelin out of the freezer right away. Okay? I can already feel like this is getting a teeny bit soft just because it's hot in here. But we are going to cut these out and put that down. Okay, just like that. We don't want to do too much water, but just enough so your finger doesn't stick. And then that way it holds like more of a down shape. And the craquelin also does this, but it just helps keep it so that it doesn't go too far down. Okay, so now we're just going to cover. Do you guys want to help me cut those out and we can get these covered? Now the fun thing is you always want to leave one without. Okay, that's going to be your little tester in the oven. Okay, you're going to leave that closest to you so that when you turn the light on, you can see, oh, that looks nice and golden brown, right? Because if you don't, it's kind of hard to tell, right? Dark chocolate. Thank you. So I will leave this corner one undone, and then we'll pop them in the oven at 400.
Do you want us to do this?
Yeah, sure. You can leave your choux pastry out at room temperature for as long as you need while you're baking. That's not a problem. The only thing you need to keep cold is the craquelin so that it doesn't like immediately melt in the 400-degree oven. Okay, so this is already a little soft, but that's all right. So I'm gonna leave that tester on the front so I can see. And we set a timer. We're gonna do, what did we do on this, 17 minutes? Yeah, okay. Let's do 17 minutes. And basically what we're doing is that hot heat makes it erupt, and then we cool it down so that it doesn't burn, and then it sort of just gets it nice and through. So we want that initial rise, and then we want it to just sort of hold and bake, okay? So we're gonna get that in the oven, and while we're waiting for that to cook, we're gonna make our pastry cream. Who here has made pastry cream before?
Is it like a custard or?
Like a custard, yeah. Okay, it's like a custard. Good, okay, I'm glad, because we debated back and forth between not showing it, but I think we should, because I personally thought it was really daunting before I did it the first couple of times. It was like scary to me, the thought of tempering the eggs and doing what you need to do. So let's show that. All right, we've got our ingredients right here, and what we're going to do is we are going to clean this out. And actually, yeah, can we clean that out and so I can use it to have food? Okay. And then here's a whisk as well. Put those in the oven. See, it's already too soft. It's like sticking. Already getting so soft. Alright, let's get those in.
So do you stick that back in the freezer in between batches?
Well, okay, that's a great question. Oh, it's not for you. Out there. It's like getting really soft, so either in the freezer or in the. Okay, cool. Alright, so we've got that. That should be enough for now, and then I can take that back. Okay. I am going to.
The freezer question.
Yes. Sorry, what was that? Oh, yes. We do not actually, you don't want to do the craquelin until you're just about to put it in. because you want it to stay hard and cold so it does retain its shape, so it doesn't just melt off. So you can leave the piped buns out at room temperature while you're waiting for your oven to free up, but you should wait until right before to do your crackling so that it stays cold and hard, okay?
So if you pipe out like, say, 5 trays,
Yeah. So
then
whichever
you-
you're putting into the oven
you do
first,
the crackling like
crackling
that,
just for
put
that.
it back in.
Put it back in the
and then
freezer,
put it back in the
keep it
freezer,
cold,
and then
right?
take it out, do it again, put
Yeah.
it back in the freezer.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, thank you, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no, that's a really good question. And then did you have a question?
That was the
Okay,
question.
good, perfect.
Well, like, wait a minute,
Yes,
you know, like you just put that in the refrigerator, what was left
she's
out?
putting it in the walk-in, yeah.
Yeah, so you can do that?
I mean,
You don't
I don't
suggest
I
it?
don't recommend it, but
Okay,
we did do it,
okay.
it's not the end of the world. I mean,
It
we're just
won't.
making it for you
Yeah.
guys and it's okay.
Okay,
But ideally, keep it in the freezer to right before you pop it out and put it on the little guys, and then stick it in the oven. And then in between batches, since you are lowering the temperature, you are going to have to re-raise it up to 400. It's fantastic if you're lucky enough to have double ovens, but most of us are not lucky enough, so we just have to take our time and do it again. You can do 2 trays at a time, but I would not suggest it purely because anytime you open that oven, it's just one more opportunity for steam and all that heat to exit and deflate your buns, and that's just unfortunate. So, I mean, I would prefer, like, if you're gonna do 5 trays, I would probably either have 2 ovens, wink wink, or I would, like, do some, like a day or 2 ahead, keep them in the freezer, and then just know that they won't necessarily be as, like, crisp as, like, normal. And that's totally fine, because, once again, almost no one knows, like, the real texture. I have to tell you a funny story. I was in Paris and I wanted to try like a famous Paris breast from Cedric Rollet. It was like a really big deal. And I'm in there and I'm like, okay, I'm ordering what I want. And she says, when do you plan on eating this? And I was like, as soon as you give it to me. And she's like, okay, we just suggest that it's eaten within half an hour. It was almost like she wanted a blood oath that I was going to eat it right away. Like, heaven forbid you ruin our pastry and give us a bad name, right? It was really funny. I was like, I promise. I'll really eat it right now. And I literally downed it in 2 seconds.
My oven has the multi-wrap convection mode. Would that work?
You can do them convection, I just don't know what to do about that. So I would do a ton of research
Okay.
on Google shows you everything. So,
Yeah.
and people have done it. It's like half the world uses convection. So you'll be fine finding some sort of instruction to show you what to do.
Okay.
I always search the comments too. A lot of times people have commented, like I use a convection or I did it with this and it worked out great. And then the recipe person like comes back and says, oh thanks, I didn't know that. Or yes, this is how you do it. So I like to search the comments. Okay, let's do the pastry cream. We are going to place all of our dry ingredients. I've already pre-measured and put them in here. And again, we hacked the recipe because why not? So it's granulated sugar right here, sugar, cornstarch, cocoa powder, salt in here, and then we're going to mix that together. Whisk the sugar, cornstarch, and cocoa powder. Okay, and then so it's just mix well, and then we're going to warm the milk in a bowl or in a pot. Get that so it's hot but not boiling. Just movement around the edges like it says. We don't want to scald this, it will cook the eggs. So while that's starting to heat up, I'm going to add the eggs to this. We want the vanilla bean paste as well. So
When it says 135 grams of eggs, is that like 5 eggs? I mean, if
yeah.
I look in the fridge, how many eggs is there?
Well, it's egg yolks. For pastry
Yeah.
cream, it's just egg yolks. It's about 5 or 6 egg yolks.
Okay.
It just depends on like
The
how
size.
heavy your eggs are.
Okay.
So like this was like what, like 3-ish egg yolks for half the recipe, so it's about 6. Right, so we're gonna pour that in. We're kind of making a paste like this. About 6, yeah. macarons, and I literally always have egg yolks. Like, always have egg yolks. I'm always in need of egg whites, hardly ever in need of egg yolks. Okay, so, put that out. And I'm just gonna whisk this into like a paste. While that is still heating up, going nowhere. All right. Did you guys ever watch the Orsini stories about whisking the right way? It was how it helps to whisk from side to side instead of around. I thought that was really interesting.
Why?
It beats it out faster, I guess.
Huh, I never even heard of that one.
I know, but it does actually work really well. All right, so now it's like a really glossy paste. And I'm just going to keep letting this come to temperature. All right, so we are going to wait to strain the cream at the end. Let's see.
Girls, you probably want this.
Can I get like the sieve to do pastry cream? Like a big, like the big
bigger
used
one, yeah.
last time. Yeah, thank you. All right. So we just don't want it boiling. We just want it simmering around the edges. This is really dirty. So when we temper our egg mixture, we're just gonna add a little bit of it at a time and whisk really hard to just make sure it's moving and it doesn't cook the eggs. Now, it is not the end of the world if a teeny bit of egg gets cooked. Totally fine, okay? We're gonna be straining it through a sieve after the fact. So no one will be able to notice. We won't be able to feel it. It'll be good to go. Don't stress about it. It will be fine. You just don't want to burn it.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit late because I stepped out.
You're totally fine.
But can you tell me the difference between pastry cream and diplomat cream?
Yes. So pastry cream, or like a custard, is just the egg yolk base. And technically, pastry cream has the cornstarch in it as a thickener. If it doesn't have cornstarch in it, it is something else. What is it considered? I forget. I saw like a whole list. And basically, they just call it like everything. Like creme pat or whatever. Like, there's just a bunch of different names, but essentially, this is just like a custard or like a cream, pastry cream, and it has cornstarch in it, so it's a little thicker. Now, diplomat cream is pastry cream plus whipped cream. So it's actually really easy to make. And it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So you're just going to weigh out whatever pastry cream you end up with, and then add half of that, of its worth in whipped cream, and fold it in nicely. And that is diplomat cream. So it's just like really light and just beautiful. So we are getting there. It is so good. Okay. Almost.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the weight of whipped cream change from its liquid state to its whipped state? If you have 30 grams of liquid, is that still 30 grams of whipped?
The air involved, I think, would change it a teeny bit, but not too much. Like, have you ever weighed out powdered sugar and you sift it and it
Yeah.
weighs a certain thing, but then you like hit the bowl and it settles? It's actually lighter, like by like 3 grams.
It's got air in it.
All right, so it's starting to like simmer on the edges, and that's where we want it to be. Just on one side. Okay, I want to make sure that it's pretty low when I add it back in because I don't want to continue cooking the eggs like where it should be. Okay, so it's almost there. Okay. I am going to now temper this egg mixture, okay? We've got little bubbles around the edge, that's it. Not a rolling boil, not even a simmer, just stuff around the edges. All right, so you can kind of hear it a little bit. So I'm just going to do about half. It's like really hard to do this one-handed. But we're just trying to, I'm doing it like almost so the whole bowl's over it so it drips down into it. Okay, so now whisking. And it's just really runny, and then I'm just going to put it back in this. See, can you see? And I'm just going to keep whisking it. There we go. Get it all out. And now We're gonna let it heat up and thicken up. So once the cornstarch starts thickening it will get thick pretty fast. So we're just gonna keep mixing so that it doesn't stick to any edges. It's just so pretty. And we do a little bit of both kinds of chocolate. We do cocoa powder and we do chocolate. And we like to do that just to deepen the flavor so that it's on both sides. You don't have to.
Extra, like, to the chocolate, little extra, like, fluffy granules or anything like that?
I'm pretty sure you can. You can stream it into it. I haven't done it myself, but like any sort of like flavored or infused, you can infuse the cream, the milk, I mean. So you can definitely add different flavors to it. People do it all
I
the
just know
time.
that Anna,
She does it.
yeah, she always
Does some sort of like espresso
little
type thing.
espresso
Yeah.
to make the chocolate.
Oh, and it
taste
cuts
better.
through the chocolate so well. It tastes so good. I love espresso on my chocolate. Okay, just gonna make sure it's hot enough. Okay. Now, just depending on how hot it gets, we'll thicken up.
What's the difference between this and something you put in pie?
I don't think there's really any difference. Just any sort of like custard. Like Val yesterday, Heather was saying like, oh well, we don't technically need to show them the pastry cream because Val did the exact same thing for her pies yesterday. So it's just, it then sets in the fridge. So like this is a really good part of the recipe to do the day before. In fact, I recommend it because you do want it to set in the fridge, get cold and set up in the fridge the day before. It's taking forever. Oh, here we go. It's amazing how it takes forever and then all of a sudden it just starts coming together. That's why it's one of those things that you can't walk away from, right? All right, where's that string? There it is. Okay, cool. All right, here it comes. Starting to get on the edges, making sure I'm scraping it because it's thickening up. We get aggressive with our scraping, right? All right, here we go. Now it is like thick. You can see it now? Okay, now I'm gonna take it off the heat. Keep stirring because it's still a really hot pan. And I'm going to see that? See how pretty that is? I don't know if you can. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's see. Whoop. We are going to whisk in the chocolate and butter. Sorry, I'm gonna forget. Sometimes when you're like doing these demos, teaching these classes, it's like, someone tell me what to do because when I'm talking, I forget. Okay. All right, now we're gonna whisk in the butter and the chocolate. And we're basically, it's so hot, it's basically just melting it immediately. And thinning it up a teeny bit. So pretty though. So pretty, so chocolatey. I like to just because inevitably there are tiny little bits. Until you get like really good at making this, there's gonna be tiny little bits of egg, but you just wanna like smooth it out. I'm pretty sure if you have like an emulsifier, you could do that, but this works just as well. So now I'm gonna put it in here. Normally I would probably use a different bowl that's clean, but I don't care. For the demo's sake, we can just put it straight into this one. We're fine. Okay, now I'm just going to sort of shimmy and shake it till it goes and push it through the sieve. It will eventually go through. It is thick. But it will eventually go through. Sometimes it's nice to use a spoon too. My spoon's pretty dirty.
Yeah, sorry, is it okay?
No, go ahead.
Question or-
No, you talk.
Does it matter, couverture or compound chocolate?
Well, I would use kosher because it tastes better. And because it doesn't need to be tempered. There's no like need for it to be tempered, so there's no need to skimp on the flavoring taste.
So that
right?
won't affect the look of this at all if it's not.
I mean, compound has other ingredients in it, so I would be hesitant. You might turn it up. I would be hesitant. Oh, that's the timer
Yeah,
actually
for that
one. Turn it down to 350. I would be hesitant to use compound just because there are other ingredients in the compound chocolate. But what's in there like?
But the coverture, do you have to temper it?
Nope, because
Before you
you're
use it?
literally just melting it in. Does not need to be tempered. That's why it's like such an easy thing.
What about chocolate chips?
Chocolate chips tend to have a coating on them, but I'm sure it's fine. You know, I guarantee whoever's making it on the red is using chocolate chips as well. You know, it's not gonna kill it. I just love the taste of like a really good quality chocolate. And I kind of feel like if you're putting this much effort into something, just do it right.
What's your favorite chocolate?
I love guitar. I always have guitar the 54% on hand all the time. I think it is the best semi-sweet, like as minimally dark as you can get. It's so dark. It's my favorite. All right.
Okay, take that.
Yeah, yes, please. Okay, so now it's just like a nice thick custard, and we're just gonna cover it in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for, you know, a day-ish, all morning till the afternoon, whatever. This is what they made just a little bit ago before class, and it is like really nice. You can pull that off and it doesn't stick. It's like really well set. We put it in like the fridge and the freezer just to like really chill it faster, and it worked great. Okay, so now we are going to whip up our cream. Can I get some heavy cream? Thank you. We're going to whip up our heavy cream, and we're going to make our whipped cream and then diplomat cream. Now, whipped cream, you can add powdered sugar to it or not. It's totally up to you. If we were in Europe, they would absolutely not add powdered sugar to it. They'd be like, why? It's already really sweet. But Americans, we like our sweetness, so we tend to always put a lot of any form of sugar in our food. So it's totally up to you. I'm not going to because it's just one extra step that they have to go run and do. And it tastes so good. Actually, I'm going to weigh, can I get a scale?
Sure.
I need to weigh that heavy cream. And actually, can I get another one of these and a spatula? Thank you. That way I can weigh out.
What's the difference between mousse and diplomatic cream?
Okay. I don't actually know.
It's
I mean, diplomat cream is the pastry cream plus whipped cream.
Oh, mousse is just the.
And then the mousse is like a different form of like a custard. It's like a whipped. Isn't that whipped? Like a whipped custard. I don't ever do mousse, so I'm not entirely sure.
It's very
I think
similar.
it has gelatin in it.
Oh yes, it's stabilized.
Yeah.
It's stabilized with the gelatin. Okay, so we are going to weigh out our cream, and I'm going to weigh that out to see how much whipped cream we need. Okay, thank you. All right. So I don't need to do all of the pastry cream right this minute. I can just do some of it since there's not that many of you. So it's so hard to see with that giant bowl. Okay, I'll tear it. Perfect. All right, so let's do some of this. Oh, that looks good. Okay. All right, so we are going to weigh that. And then we'll fold it in this bowl. Okay. It's going to be double this to the whipped cream, 2-to-1 ratio, which is kind of nice because then you can just not use all of it. And then let's see. You guys, am I like really old or I just can't see? What does that say? 215. Okay. 215 divided by 2. 107.5. I can't do simple math, guys. Not in there, just not in stuff. Let's put that there. So, and then this part is like not, whoa, did I just do ounces? Sorry, hold on. That is not grams. Shoot. What's that in grams?
So
how much does this weigh? Because now I'll start over. That's the problem with scales, right? You gotta keep your grams and ounces figured out. I guess I could have just divided my treated it as ounces, but I don't actually trust myself to measure. Okay. Doesn't really matter that much, but because at this point you're just folding in halvesies. All right, let's try this again. Let's go to grams, please. There we go.
Did you set a timer for that?
Yes.
It's 6 minutes. Thank you for asking, though. It's always good to know. Okay, now we'll try again, and this time in grams. Okay. Now we're at, let's see, 138. Okay, 138. 69. Okay. So now do 69. Green. Make sure it's mixed up.
So it's just the same.
What?
You do like 69 and 69, so they're both the same.
Half.
Half.
So that was whatever 69 times 2 is.
Yeah.
This is 69. Okay. That's way too much. Shoot. What a struggle. What a struggle. I don't want to pour it into that. I want to pour it into here. Why does that seem like so little? That's perfect, 69. Okay. That seems crazy to me. 138 grams? That's 138 grams? Does that seem crazy to you? Sorry, I'm like,
What do you think? That's
in my
what's
mind.
here too.
What in the world? Sorry guys. I know I just did that, but like, what in the world? Maybe I just can't see and it said 7 instead of 1. I think it does say 7, sorry. It's like so hard to see. Oh no, it said 1,166. That's a lot different. I was like, what is going on? I know what 138 grams looks like. Okay, so 1,000. Thought there was a decimal. No decimal there.
So you have the bowl weight in it too now, right?
Oh, that's true. You're right. For crying out loud, you guys. You're making me feel like an amateur.
Well, you're just showing us that you make mistakes
Right?
too.
Human.
Yeah.
Human. Do this one more time, guys. One more freaking
Well, we're
time.
learning that you've got to be exact.
I know you do. You have to be exact. And, like, your scales aren't always accurate, which is really hard. That's fine. Okay.
Ah.
Thank you. Oh, I love these. This is the kind I have at home. The best. It's so much better. It's like, I can actually see. And it lights up. That's fantastic. Okay, so we're at 0. Let's change to grams. Okay, 0 grams. One more time. 3rd time's a charm. 3rd time's a charm. Okay. Apologize for all the live people that we've had to now watch this like 3 times. Okay. And it's screaming at me low battery and it just died. So.
Oh my god, no!
It was like 1,400. So we'll just go with 1,400.
That's easy. Then you have 700 for
Yeah,
the
700 for the whipped cream. Just gonna go with that. I saw 14 something. We saw 14 something. So we're good to go. Let's just start over.
Oh, are you using the other scale?
Is that one gonna work?
I don't know. We'll see. I might be able to get it to go really fast. 700. That's all I need. Might be able to do it really fast. Nope, no, and it's dead.
Oh dear.
I almost got it.
At least that puzzles.
Great. Okay. And sometimes I do a little bit more than half, and it's not a big deal. I know, right? Seriously. But you guys, when I do my math class, trying to come up with like 7 scales that actually work, it's always a scramble before class. We're always like, does this one work? Someone check it. If the numbers move, it doesn't work. All right, 700. so now whipped cream. All right, just let that whip up. How are we on this? We got a minute left. Let's check it. So once it's basically baked almost all the way through, it's pretty like safe to open the oven. So it's like pretty golden. Now it's at this point with a minute left, it's not going to collapse if I open the oven. I could probably pull them out right now and just throw them in here a teeny bit more chunky. So we'll probably let it go the last 37 seconds, and then we pull it out. Pull that oven.
Oh, she looks fast.
Yeah. Alright. You have to do it? Right? Look at your nose so well. And honestly, I've like never really had a problem with this recipe where they don't turn out. Like, they're like so great. Right now, we're gonna let the steam out a teeny bit. Thank you. Just press the one on the right. We're gonna poke a little hole in it just to let the steam out. And honestly, I just find a little like part that's there. You just do it there. And it doesn't need to be big, but I kind of like poke it into the soil to let whatever air out that I need. Just find a little spot, open it up. There's always some little side spot you can do in.
It's like a toothpick too small, like how you use it, right?
I mean, it should fit the work. I just like to like twist a little just to give it a little bit more space. Just a little bit. It doesn't need to be huge. And the cream's not going to come out of it. It'll be fine. Alright, so those are so cute and done. And then once this is good, we'll fold it in, put it into our piping bag with like a small tip. So I use either a Bismarck tip, which is what people use for pastry, like the Philly Clairs and cream puffs and things like that. You don't have to. You can just use a small, like a 12 or a 10 round tip. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like a Wilton 12 or a Wilton 10 round tip. And those work just as great. So what we do, but this is nice because what we're going to do is we're going to poke the bottom with it. And that's kind of nice. Or you can use a chopstick. One of the two. So yeah, I'm just going to poke a little hole in the bottom. Like that. These are really well cooled. You want to make sure they're cooled before you fill them because you don't want to melt your cream inside.
So are they pretty much hollow inside?
Pretty much. Yeah. They rarely have anything else. Can I even serrate it nice? Let me see if I can see it right in. So you can do like, what is it, the religieux things where you like cut the top off. You can fill it and then put the top back on after the fact. You can do that with these too. Just use a serrated knife. That's the struggle. But yeah, they're pretty empty inside, and that's what you want. It really is supposed to just be a container for the yummy pastry cream that you're putting inside. Okay. Come along. Now, the pastry cream itself is like delicious, and you could just eat this or fill it with just this. You don't have to cut it with the whipped cream. You can just use pastry cream. And a lot of people do. They just do their pastry cream straight into it. It's totally up to you. It's really good. It's like really silky smooth, so delicious. Thank you. So yeah, you can cut the tops off. I don't love to because it really does kind of crack through the Craquelin. Not ideal. and then we fill it, and then you can put it on top. I prefer just leaving the crackling intact and piping it in the bottom. But like you can cut it in half. If you were doing, a lot of people do eclairs like that, like a Paris breast, if you circle and you completely cut the top off, you fill it, and then you put the top of that on top. How we doing like this with person? All right. Do you have any questions? Go ahead and explain as much as I can well enough for you guys. It really, like, you follow this recipe and you'll be all set. It really does, like, lay it out really well. And it is pretty, like following it really well, it's no brainer. It's like this every single time. It's so great. It looks so cute. And you can do them bigger. You're doing smaller, just adjust your temperature, not your temperature, but your baking time in the temperature before you eat. So like if I did a slightly bigger one, I would want to do it for the full 20 minutes at 400 and then like 15-ish minutes at 350. With this we did 17, we knew they ran a little hot, so we did 17 and 12. Actually, I think we might have even done 10 on the second half,
Yeah.
right? So that's why it's so nice to look at these, to be able to see like, okay, that's pretty golden brown, we're gonna take these out now. And with this tray that was in here, we pulled it, we had set the timer for 12 minutes, we pulled it 3 minutes out, like 3 minutes early. So you're just kind of checking to make sure. All right, that's cold. All right, I think that's good. Nice. All right.
The V touch.
Okay, so now we just fold it into our pastry cream. Bring this over here. Okay. So I'm just going to put it all out. Sometimes you like to do like a little bit at a time. Just so this.
Having one of those days.
Right? I know. Now with folding, it's a lot. Has anyone ever done macarons in here? It's a lot like macarons. It's sort of like macaronage. You're doing it, scraping around the side. Right? You're scraping around the side and you're pulling through to mix it in. And I know that like sometimes it can be painfully slow. You're like, this is gonna be forever. But honestly, it's worth going slow and just pulling it together slowly so that you don't deflate things at an uneven rate. So we're just going through until it comes together. And then I'll add, once this gets a little bit more mixed in, I'll add the rest. Just so that it stays nice and fluffy. I don't want it to completely deflate. Okay, I'm gonna add the rest. And that's why it doesn't have to be like totally exact half, but you want it to be as much as you can, just so that the consistency is right. And I have made this and left whatever leftovers I had in the fridge, and it's been great the next day. The third day is a little deflated. It's a little runny by the third day. But the second day is
It lasts that long.
right. I know. Well, that's kind of the great thing is pastry cream also lasts like 2 to 3 days in the fridge as well. Not much more than 3. But so if you don't want to mix your diplomat cream, since it's a 2-to-1 ratio, you can always just prepare it how you need it, and then use it the next day if you want to. All right, so it's coming together. Slowly but surely. We want it to be nice and fluffy. And
Meriel, if you bring that forward just a tiny bit, there you
yeah,
go. I can see.
thank you for reminding me. It's like gonna be awkward.
Right.
Reach. But it's so nice when people can be able to see it. All right, so we are almost there. And then we will pipe into our things. And maybe if they want to get like a couple more bags, we can all do it so that everyone can enjoy it. Just do like the 12 tip or the 10 tip, since Bismarck is a little bit more hard to find. All right. Okay. Look how nice that looks. So fluffy, so aerated, and just okay. This is like why I hardly ever make this for myself, because I will literally eat all of them. It's like so funny. People ask like, oh, when did you get into baking? And it's like, well, I was always into baking. I just ate all of it. So I didn't make it that so I didn't do it that much because
You didn't know I was doing it because there wasn't any to give.
right? I'm like not about to like make this constantly and then eat it all every single day. So yeah. Once I actually started a business, then it was like fantastic. I can make this all the time and then I can taste it every once in a while without having to weigh 1,000,000 pounds. Okay, that's beautiful, gorgeous. Let's get, where did I put my okay. So now we'll fill it up and you guys can come and get some treats. Okay. Again, fold the tip in, kind of punch it down so that there's room. I always like to keep it like that. And then I'm just gonna dish it in. And then we'll show you how to fill. How easy it is. And you do put a lot in. You fill the whole thing, so. Okay. I'm not gonna do the hot ones, because that will get all over the place. Let's see which one's the cooked. Okay, so I'm gonna stick it in pretty far, and then kind of pull it out as I squeeze and let go. And you will feel it even going. You'll feel it get heavy as it comes out. It's really struggling this too. Okay. I think it actually may be easier with the bigger nozzle anyway. This one's really struggling to come out. It's too thick for how small it is. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Now that I've filled it, I'm going to, it's great. It even sticks to the mat, you guys. It's so awesome. And that's why you don't necessarily need the perforated, because it bakes really well on the parchment. Okay, so now I'm going to cut it and show you. Just so pretty. Oh yeah, it didn't even fill all the way. Cut. So it's just so delicious. And then you eat it. You enjoy it. Right? It's so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, can't wait for you guys to try. So good. We'll get these going for you. Does anyone else have any questions? We good? I'm going to steal some of your things. This is driving me nuts. Oh. These are not coming out very fast. Thank you. Tiny bags. Oh, we can find. Okay. If you guys want to come up and get some, you can.
Get some napkins.
Okay.
What was the other piping tip that you started with?
So Bismarck, it's pretty small though.
That one.
This is probably a 10. This is a 10, a Wilton 10. You can use a Wilton 12, but that starts to get pretty big. That won't. They're not actually punched. Okay, so it will start like you can know that you've filled it all the way when it starts to kind of like pressure. The pressure will push it back out. So we'll put the filled ones.
That's what she's
Where do you want us to stand?
You can stand over here. I'll we'll put the filled ones on this tray right here. Oh, do we? Yeah. We do? So I think,
And we can even bring them up to, should we do it that way?
whatever. Whatever you like.
COVID, yeah.
COVID safety. And honestly, I'm just
one on.
It's
It's just stored right around. The one on
Meriel is still there.
Kind of silly to.
Yeah, I can, oh, okay, well, you just tell me where to go.
It starts to like erupt. That one, so.
I didn't know Billy would do that. She's fond of going to that special place and that's, oh, figured it was fun.
Enough chat. See how long it takes? So, I mean, get creative. Think about what other kind of fillings, what other flavorings you could do. Nutella's really good. Just plain vanilla's really good. Yeah.
So say I wanted to make a passion fruit one.
Yes.
The passion fruit is liquid, not powder, so how would I do that?
So I would not make, I would make a regular pastry cream, and then I would mix the passion fruit into the whipped cream. So it's like there's two different times that you can add flavor to it. Either when you do a diplomat cream, you can either do it into the pastry, which is really easy with chocolate because we're just like melting it in and using powdered cocoa. But almost any other like flavoring or emulsion or whatever, I would flavor the whipped cream first. Like do what we did with the folding action, fold it into the whipped cream, and then add that to the pastry.
So whip the cream and then add
Yes.
it.
Yes, exactly. So like if you wanted to make like a Nutella, you would add the Nutella, fold it into the whipped cream, already made whipped cream, and then add that to your pastry cream to make it different. You could just fill these with flavored whipped cream. I mean, it's totally your choice. Yes.
So if you use a vanilla crackling, do you still need a tester?
I still do a tester on the vanilla just because the vanilla crackling still has brown sugar in it, so it still has a little color. So I always do a tester just because that's like your guarantee, like, this is done.
So if you do vanilla, do you have to adjust any of these weights at all?
Yes, so when you don't use, so with this, the 20 grams of Dutch cocoa powder in the Craquelin, is that what you're referring to, the Craquelin?
Yeah.
So with the Craquelin, the 20 grams of that powder, it just goes towards the flour. So instead of 100 grams of flour, you're doing 120. So you're just sort of replacing the dry ingredients. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
And what would you do for the pastry cream? Just
for the
take it out?
pastry cream, it's like literally the same, just minus the cocoa powder.
Okay.
And then, no chocolate after the fact. And so, and really, like, when in doubt, check out Cloudy Kitchen. She has like a ton of different recipes. She even has a passion fruit shoe pastry, like this, but with passion fruit. So
But if you were
I would
using,
totally check out what she does with it. Yeah.
if you were using matcha powder, it'd be like the same.
Oh yeah, matcha powder would be the same. And a lot of people do that. They do like a really cute green Craquelin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, you can do like powdered food coloring, or you could do regular food coloring. I wouldn't do like a ton because it might throw off like the consistency. But always use gel food coloring, right? We never use store bought.
Does it matter?
Yeah, the food coloring at the grocery store is like 85% water. It's like all water. So we always use gel. Meriel gel here, it's the best. There are powdered food colorings as well that you can use, but honestly, they're not really worth it unless you're doing something like you want a really dark color. You have to add a ton of coloring to get to it. And really at that point, the Sugar Art has an amazing, it's their Master Elite brand food coloring powder. And that is awesome. Like specifically for the reds, the blacks, to green blues. The ones that are really hard to get a deep saturated color without like messing up the liquid ingredients, you know. So that's why it's nice to use powder. Like I do that for my macarons. I use the, not all of them, just those specific colors I do, the dry powdered kind.
If you were, just wanted to make, I mean, the Craquelin stuff,
Mm-hmm.
can you, other than white chocolate, dark chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
what other kind of flavors could?
For Craquelin or for
For-
pastry cream?
Well, for the pastry cream, I pretty much figured you could probably make that any flavor you want.
Yeah, I don't necessarily, like off the top of my head, wouldn't know like what kind of like ratio for like the ingredients on the pastry cream. You'd have to like Google that and see if someone's done a recipe for it.
Yeah.
But the Craquelin, you're not flavoring the Craquelin necessarily. This one obviously gets flavored with cocoa powder,
Right?
but that just happens to also be what's coloring it as well. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. If you were just doing like a vanilla Craquelin, it would still have a brown sugary taste to it,
Okay.
but it's just not colored. We call it vanilla, but really it's just a brown sugar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Could you do raspberry powder instead?
You could do raspberry powder, yeah. I think most people at that point, they just use food coloring and then flavor the inside. Like the Craquelin's more for texture and color, and just the structural integrity of it, you know, like keeping it that dome, that perfect dome. It's not necessarily for flavor so much.
Yeah.
The chocolate helps because it is just double whammy, flavor and color. So, yeah.
Because I would imagine if you were to make the pastry cream, if you were to use like say lemon curd, I mean.
Yes,
it's
and
like-
with
it's-
that, I would mix it in after the fact with the whipped cream.
Right.
Yeah, I would still make a diplomat cream, and I would do like with the passion fruit. I would take the lemon curd and fold it into the whipped cream,
Right.
and then add that to the pastry cream. Yeah, yeah, that would be delicious. I like that idea. Also, you can always just, if you cut them, you can always pipe inside straight lemon curd, straight passion fruit curd, straight on the bottom, and then add like just a plain vanilla pastry cream or plain vanilla diplomat cream combo on top. And then you have that top at the bottom and then the stuff at the top. Like the infinite of possibilities of fillings, right? That's why Pinterest is like your best friend with that kind of thing, because it's like, ooh, look what they did. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try that next time. So, yeah, has everyone had a chance to eat it? Those are good. Take another one home. We have tons, so we're gonna probably pass them out to everyone else. But thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
And thanks for bearing with me with scales and mess ups.